All praises to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Makakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson on the Valley of Dry Bones. So going from like Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, from the first verse to around like the 12th verse, and I might go into the whole chapter, but we'll see, man. Like, it's not up to me ultimately, right? And I'm going to be talking about the Valley of Dry Bones, because there's a lot of people that might not know what this represents, man, because I've seen some of these churches around the West Midlands and whatever go into this chapter on the internet or for whichever means. I've seen them try and go into these things, right? And whenever people go into this Valley of Dry Bones, they always try and associate the Valley of Dry Bones with everybody, when that's not a genuine thing to do, because the Bible clearly lets you know who the Valley of Dry Bones are, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 1. The hand of Yahweh was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh, and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. Now, what we believe is that that valley represents really ultimately America, because that is the place that the Israelites have suffered the worst, and that's the place on earth where people are going through the worst state, right? It's a weird country, America, because that's one of the places where you see extreme luxury, right? But then it's also a place where you'll see extreme poverty and extreme wickedness, man. Like, it's a place that's got any and everything that you want to do. It's got every single weather condition there, right? There's places there that are cold, right, like Alaska, and then there's places there that have got extreme heat, right? It's a very strange place America is, man. Verse 2, and he caused me to pass around, and he caused me to pass them round about, and behold, there were many in the open field, and lo, they were very dry. Now, I looked up before I did this video around about maybe 3 or 4 hours ago. I decided to look up how long it takes a human body to decompose and to become like bones or a skeleton. And it said that 3 weeks to several years is the time frame. So if a body's in like very hot conditions or whatever, when it's decomposing, that will speed up the rate of decomposition of the body, right? So if you then take that idea of a human body being decomposed and becoming into bones, right? It will take a hell of a long time for somebody to go from being a human being with life in them and organs in them to being bones. And then if you take into the fact that there were several bones in this valley that you're reading about, right? A valley would be several bones, right? So that's several different people that are in such a dead state that it's like they're like bones that are dry, meaning that even the moisture that you'll find in bones is not within the bone. Now, some people might not know this, right? But your bones is actually what produces red blood cells, man. Red blood cells are actually produced within the bone marrow, and you can look it up to see if I'm telling the truth or not. But a lot of people think that the heart produces blood, but the heart actually pumps blood around the body. But it's the bone marrow that actually produces blood, man. So from that, a whole bunch of stuff happens. So if you've got dry bones, right, you're through, basically, to use that saying, man. Verse 3, and he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord Yahweh, thou knowest. So what this is saying in the spiritual sense is that Yahweh was looking at a group of bones, right? That was pretty much, he was looking at humans that have had their life completely drained out of them, to where they're skeletons with bones that are dry as hell. They ain't got no life to them whatsoever. They ain't got no moisture. And in the spiritual sense, that we clearly see that was talking about the Israelites, especially when the Israelites was in the Atlantic slave trade at its highest point, man. Right? They had no life in them. They was dumbed down. They couldn't do nothing. They was getting brutalized every day. They didn't have no hope in hell. They didn't have no hope in heaven. They didn't have no hope in anything, man. They couldn't do nothing. They couldn't escape out of anything. They was just a victim day in and day out, right? They didn't have a voice. None of these other nations cared, right? You didn't have the Ishmaelites that stirred up themselves to try and raise us out of that situation, right? It's funny how now when you see certain things going on in the world, you see all these other nations that they'll open their mouths and they'll speak about their grievance towards certain things that are happening throughout the world. But Yet we was in that hardcore slavery for so long, and none of these nations stepped up and got involved because they was all happy for us to be in that situation too, man. And that's why when we raise up to the position that we're going to be raised up by the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, everybody else is going to have to suffer too, man. All these other nations that was happy with the wicked situation that we was in, they're going to have to pay too, man. And that's why they don't like talking about what we went through. And they only try and use that as an example for trying to help themselves in some way. They'll speak about what we went through to try and further bring their own things that they're going through to make them a bit easier for themselves, man. And as if we ain't noticed that. And never mind the Israelites, if we noticed it or not. Yahweh noticed it. Let me carry on reading Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 4. And he said unto me, prophesy unto these bones and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Right now, what is the word that the Lord likened to? Right, the word of the Lord is likened to living water, man. Right, what's water got in it? Moisture. And let me read this. John chapter 4 and verse 10. John chapter 4 and verse 10. Yahweh answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of Yahweh, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldst have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. Right? So if you was to be a dry bones, right? If you was to be a dry bone and you was to get given living water, guess what? In a spiritual sense, you're going to come back to life. Guess what? If you're spiritually so dead that you resemble dry bones, you're basically like a skeleton with no moisture in it, and you get given living water, guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to rise up and come back to life, right? Life is going to enter into you again, man. And you can't find nobody that seems to have more life within them than an Israelite man that believes he's an Israelite man. Nobody else has got a stronger spirit on this earth than an Israelite man that believes that he's an Israelite man. Nobody else has got a stronger spirit, man, because some of these other people that have got their particular belief systems, they're only believing in them things because there's loads of other people that believe in it. There'll be billions of other people that are down with that, right? And that's why you've seen with these two celebrities that recently came out and agreeing and saying that they're Israelites. Now all of a sudden, several other people that probably used to scoff in the past are all of a sudden trying to agree with it too now. They're trying to be like, yeah, I knew it was Israel. No, you didn't know that. You were scoffing before, a lot of you people, man. But now you want to try and come by because people that are famous are saying it, when before you were scoffing. And that's what would happen if any of these female celebrities came out and started saying that they are Israelites. If you've seen Doja Cat come out and say that she believes she's an Israelite, or if you've seen Beyonce or Rihanna come out and say that she's an Israelite, if you've seen Cardi B or Nicki Minaj or any of these female celebrity whores that are pushing out that spirit on women, right? If any of them came out and said that we're Israelites all of a sudden, now all of a sudden you'd have loads of Israelite women all of a sudden wanting to join up and think that it's something that is some kind of club. They'd all of a sudden want to think they're an Israelite then, because they ain't really true believers, man, right? Let's go back to this. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 5. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live, and I will lay sinews upon you, and I will bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin. Now imagine you've seen imagine a visual in your mind of bones, right? Just complete bones, right? You've got all the joints to the body, right? But it's just scattered bones, man, right? But then life starts entering back into them. You're gonna see gradually. You're gonna start seeing a human form, right? You're gonna see the I ain't trying to name bones, man, right? But you might see the patella joint join back together. You're gonna see the ankle join back together. You're gonna see the elbow joint join back together. You're gonna see the ribs start joining back, right? Attaching to the sternum. You're gonna see the cranium get placed on the top. You're gonna see it start attaching, man. You're gonna see all the bones start getting joined together, right? Then you're gonna see muscle start adding, ligaments, tendons, right? Then you'll start seeing organs, right? And eventually you'll start seeing a face form on that. You're gonna start seeing skin form around it. Then eventually you're going to start seeing it be given a voice, speech to speak, man. You're going to start seeing it having an opinion. And then when it gets to its ultimate state, which is what's written in the scriptures, you're going to see it have everlasting life. So what that's talking about is a group of people going from being in a dead state, right, where they didn't know who they was, they didn't know anything about themselves, and they were just prepared to be anything that anybody told them they are, to being a nation of people again. And I'm going to read it. Verse 6, and I will lay sinews upon you and bring flesh upon you and cover you with skin and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. So I prophesied, and as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. So just like I said, the bones went from being scattered bones to being like, oh, this bone goes to this bone, oh, this joint goes to here, right? Which is really the gathering of the elect to the nation of Israel, right? The gathering of the nation of Israel, right? Becoming a body, right? Full of many people. Verse 8, and when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So the easing of the slavery would have been the beginning of us getting brought back together. And then receiving the actual truth that we're the Hebrew Israelites is the true bringing of the life to us, man. And all of this came from the heavens, from Yahweh. So none of you people out there are going to be able to make us stop thinking that we're Israelites no more, man. And anybody that does stop saying that they're an Israelite, they wasn't of the elect. You're not going to be able to stop anybody of the elect still believing that they're an Israelite, man. You can get other people to apologize or whatever, but you're not going to be able to get anybody of the elect to the nation of Israel to stop doing what they was formed to do by the Lord Yahweh from heavens, not of their own choice, not of their own power, not of their own strength, but because Yahweh put a spirit within them to do it. Let me prove that. Because people think that this is a thing where a man's just so enhanced or so skilled that he can do things. No, that's not the case. Moses wasn't any different than anybody else, because Yahweh made him be different than anybody else. King David wasn't more great in stature than his brothers, but Yahweh chose him. King Saul was a head height taller than every other man. Yet what did he do? He didn't follow the plans of Yahweh, because Yahweh didn't pull it within him to do these things. He didn't pull it within him to be like that, man. King Saul was a head height taller than every other man. How many Israelites would have been tall in that day? You think you wouldn't have had 7-foot Israelites back then? And he was a head height taller than every man of Israel. So that's a mighty man. That's bigger than Deontay Wilder would be. That's a big man. Yet he didn't have the spirit that Yahweh put within him to be the type of man that's going to do all the things that Yahweh says, man. And anyone that is of that spirit, nobody's going to be able to do anything to them. So it doesn't matter how many people you can get to sell out. It doesn't matter how many people you can get to betray their own people. You're not going to be able to get the elect of the nation of Israel to do that, right? And ultimately, the word of Yahweh was made flesh anyway, and he's at the right hand, and he's at his right hand side, waiting to come back down to the earth to rule and to in righteousness make war. In righteousness doth he judge and make war, man. Plus you got Ezekiel the 13th, second Ezra's the 13th chapter, which speaks about the return of the Messiah too. Plus you've got Revelation 1 and 7. Every eye is going to see him. This is Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 8. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of Yahweh. So there's not nothing that they can try and get a person of the elect to do by where that person is no longer of the elect anymore. There's not like, oh, if I get him to accidentally break a Sabbath, he ain't going to be of the elect no more. No, it don't work like that. Or you're not going to be able to be like, oh, if I get him to swear, or if I get him to be angry on camera, then now he's not of the elect anymore. It's not of that. It's not of a man's works. It's that Yahweh's made this particular man be of the elect, no matter what nobody else on the earth got to say. What does it say in Romans 8 and 33? In fact, you know what? Let's read it, because some people might not know. What does it say? Romans chapter 8 and verse 33. Who shall lay anything to the charge of Yahweh's elect? It is Yahweh that justifieth. So there ain't going to be no works that anybody's going to be able to find within a member of the elect of the nation of Israel that anybody else is going to be able to say, but you're trying to talk like you're righteous, but you did this. I know that you did this back in 2003. I know that you did this back in the 80s. I know that you did this back in the 90s. I know that you did this in the noughties. I know that you did this last week. There ain't going to be nothing that nobody's going to be able to say to anybody of the elect to the nation of Israel that's going to make them not be of the elect to the nation of Israel. And the scriptures even goes so far as to say that even death cannot make a person that's of the elect to the nation of Israel be of the nation of Israel, of the elect, right? So when you take this to the valley of dry bones, there's not nothing that's going to be happen on this earth that's going to make the valley of dry bones be fully restored, which that valley of dry bones is the Israelites, as I'm going to read. Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 8, for by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of Yahweh, not of works, lest any man should boast. Now, it's not of a man's works, but it's going to be of Yahweh's works, that Yahweh is going to make men do. Verse 10, for we are his workmanship, created in a Mashiach Yahweh Shai, unto good works, which Yahweh have before ordained that we should walk in them. So it's not of our man's own works, but it's going to be because of the works that Yahweh has programmed in men to perform on the earth, which is ultimately going to be based on the gift of faith that he gave them. But it's not going to be because this particular man went off and got himself a B.Tech national diploma in construction. That ain't going to make him of the elect. Or because another brother's got, I did a 1 rep max. I did 20 muscle ups. So now I'm of the elect. It's not like that. Because there'll be one man that might be able to do 20 muscle ups and he's of the elect. But there might be another guy that can't even do 1 push up and he's of the elect. There might be a woman that she's extremely beautiful and she's of the elect. But there might be another woman and she's not beautiful. She could be morbidly obese, but she's of the elect. There could be one brother that's short and he's of the elect, and another man that's tall and he's of the elect. One man that can't grow a beard and he's of the elect. Another guy that's got a beard down past his belly button and he's of the elect, man. Another man that can't grow hair and he's of the elect. Another man that can grow hair and he's of the elect. A woman that can't grow hair and she's of the elect, and a woman that can grow hair and she's of the elect. It's going to be based on whoever Yahweh wants to be of the elect from the nation of Israel, because that's the only people that can be of the elect, right? The elect are the chosen within the chosen nation. Many are called, but few are chosen. Simple as that. But people will think, nah, it ain't that, because they want to try and steal our thing, right? They want us to not be a part of any of their things, but then at the same time, they want to try and steal what's been promised to us. And it's not going to happen, because Romans 9 and 4 clearly says, man, that even the promises are for the Israelites. The law has been given to the Israelites. The service of God's been given to the Israelites. All of these things been given to Israel. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 8. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and they stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then said he unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off from our parts. But now we don't say that our hope is lost and we're cut off from our parts, because we have came into the congregation of the Lord, and we understand what the end of all of these things are. We understand when we no longer are envious at the foolish, because we see the prosperity of the wicked. Psalm chapter 73 and verse 3. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness, they have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily, so they don't care about speaking happily about wickedness, right? They don't care about speaking about oppression wickedly or loftily, because they say, well, everyone's had someone in slavery at once upon a time. They speak about, oh, everyone does slavery. That's how they speak about these kind of things. They think that, based on what they try and say, they pretty much try and say that Israelites sold other Israelites into slavery, which we know that the majority of the people in the world have got brown skin, right? So it wasn't Israelites that sold Israelites into slavery. It was Hamites or Philistines that sold Israelites into slavery, right? But they think that if that was even true, that was what happened, they think that would justify them in all the evil that they've did. They think that would justify them in hanging men, in all the murder and the robbery that they've did. They think it would justify all of that. They think it would justify their cannibalism. They think it would justify all the evil that they've did, and it don't. It don't justify what they've did. Yahweh's still going to judge them for what they've done. Them pointing out another man's sins don't mean nothing. And Yahweh even speaks about this, right? Yahweh Shai even made Yahweh Shai even did a parable on this. And if Yahweh Shai is speaking on these things, that's because his father wanted him to speak on these things. This is Luke chapter 18 and verse 9. And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. And that's Esau, man. Esau's like that. He buns everybody else out, but then at the same time doesn't even look at what he's doing. He actually tries to call everybody else savages and everybody else evil and everybody else this or everybody else that. But if we look at what he's doing the worst things of all. Verse 10, 2 men went into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus within himself, God, I thank thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. I fast twice in the week. I give tithes of all that I have. Now, this particular parable is going into Israelites that think that because they're following laws that they're righteous. But if we apply it to Esau, he thinks that he's a good person because he gives money to charity. They're always talking about how they're good, they're a good person. You never see them say that they're not good people, man. They really actually believe that they're good people and they're not, man. They're not good people, but they think in their mind that they are good people when they're not. The scriptures is clear. No one's good apart from Yahweh. People have not ever yet even begun to live good because there is not nobody on this earth apart from Yahweh Shai that has ever did what the true meaning of life is, which is to follow Yahweh's laws continually. Verse 13. In fact, verse 11. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus within himself. Luke 18 and 11. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. God, I thank thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. I fast twice in a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. And the publican standing afar off would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Right? And that's what Israelites do, man. We are the only nation really that points out the wickedness of within our own people, man. Right? We're the main ones that are prepared to point out the wickedness of the world in general. Right? Whereas other people, they ain't prepared to speak about the wickedness of the world, man. Right? They ain't prepared to do that. What they'll do is say, it ain't us, it's the elites. That's what Esau does. It ain't us, it's the elites. They ain't prepared to say, you know what, let's just speak on all this wickedness. And the only reason why some of them do go into certain things is because they ain't getting a share of the wickedness. So they're like, you know what, I'm snitching. That's what they do. But if their elites was to say, you know what, forget doing all that, mate. Just come and join us. They'd forget all that talking about truth stuff and throw that out the window, and they'd be speaking what they're speaking, man. They'd be back on what they're talking about. Let me go on back to Ezekiel 37 and finish the last part that I wanted to read. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 10. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then said he unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off from our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. So that's what ultimately our true restoration is going to be, man. We're going to be taken from everywhere that we're scattered. Now let me jump to a verse within this chapter, in fact. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 21. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. So that's also part of the valley of the dry bones being restored, right? That's also a part, because when we was in our dead state, when we was like dry bones spiritually, we was just left out to dry, man. Dashed everywhere, flung out everywhere, man. And people didn't care. They didn't business, man. They look at the bones and be like, man, these bones are dry, star. They really didn't care, right? They didn't say, you know what, this is messed up, man. We need to help these people. They never said that. They was like, man, them really are some dry bones, huh? That's what they were saying. They didn't care. These people did not care, man. They can try and grab a blackboard and go and do a march and all that, pretending like they're down for what we're suffering. But then we end up seeing that they're doing all this marching because they want to bring in some of their perverse lusts into the situation, man. They want to be like, yeah, people should be able to do this and we should be able to do this as well. That's what they're really about, man. They don't care about our suffering. They don't care about us. They don't know what we've gone through, really. But guess what? Yahweh's going to give them the experience of what we went through, right? Yahweh's going to give this world the experience of what the Israelites went through, man. Let's read about it. Yeah, let's read about it. Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 12. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken, and that thou, he that shall altogether go unpunished, thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. Now, this particular statement is personal to the Edomites, but guess what? Every nation is going to experience this. Let's read it again. Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 12. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken, and that thou, he that shall altogether go unpunished, thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. So everyone's going to get to experience what the Israelites are going through right now, man. They're going to get to experience the worst of the curse, the worst of it, man. And it's not a thing that they can say, nah, I don't really feel like having going through that. You're going through it. Whether you like it or not, it's going to happen, man. There's not no escape. We couldn't escape going through it. Neither will you be able to. Let's read this. Deuteronomy chapter 30. And I'll jump straight to the point. Deuteronomy chapter 30. In fact, I'll go to verse 6. Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 6. And Yahweh thy power will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love Yahweh thy power with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. So that valley of dry bones is going to be given circumcision of the mind, which is going to come through the being brought under the new covenant. And if you've read the Bible, you will find that when you read Jeremiah 31, that he speaks about the new covenant being for the Israelites. If you've read the New Testament, you will also read that the same thing is then solidified in Hebrews the 8th chapter, that the new covenant is for the Israelites and no other nation. There's no other nation that you can find written by name other than Israel that says that they're going to be given the laws within their mind. There's no other people. No other nation is going to be given that. No other people have been promised to be given it. Nobody else. Only the Israelites. And that's why everybody wants to be an Israelite so badly. That's why nobody's prepared to claim to be Esau's descendant. Nobody wants to do that. Verse 7, Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 7. And Yahweh thy power has put all these curses upon thine enemies. That's the cup that they're going to drink. Put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And that's everyone. That's everyone on this earth has persecuted us. Every single nation. When you read the Bible, every single nation has bothered the Israelites at one particular time. Every single one. Every single nation, man. And I think I made the point. The valley of dry bones. Let's read it again and I'll end the lesson. The valley of dry bones, right? The valley of dry bones are the Israelites, man. It's not everybody. The valley of dry bones are Israelites. It doesn't say anywhere that the valley of dry bones are any other nation. The valley of dry bones is a parabolic speech of the Israelites being taken out of their dead state, right? Raised up to know who they are, and then being gathered from everywhere. And then it even goes further into this chapter on how they're not going to be no more one nation. They're going to be two. How they're not going to no longer be two nations, but they're going to be one nation in the land. Meaning that the lost tribes, or what the world calls the lost tribes, are also going to be found when the valley of dry bones gets brought together. Now, the only people that are put in a classification to all of the 12 tribes of Israel in this world are the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who are the Hebrew Israelites of the Bible. Nobody else is trying to categorize and say, I think that the tribe of Gad is this group of people. Nobody else has did that. They ain't trying to do that, man. And then when you further go into Ezekiel the 37th chapter, it even speaks about how the king of Israel is going to come back too, which is King David. So what are all these people talking about, man? right? But let's read it anyway. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse, back into how it goes into specifically that the valley of dry bones are the Israelites. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 10. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then said he unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say our bones are dried, and our hope is lost, and we are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves, and cause you to come up out of your graves, and bring you into the land of Israel. So that's clear. The house of Israel are the valley of dry bones, and the valley of dry bones is speaking about them being restored out of that dried state and brought back to their land. And I'm going to end the lesson there. All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Makar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. Shalom.